Hi guys, happy Tuesday and welcome to the morning after. Today we are discussing already episode 8 of Rachel's season of The Bachelorette. It's already hometown week. I do not know how that happened, but it really flew by. I think this is a really good season, and sometimes when hometowns come around you're like, finally, but in this case it sort of snuck up on us. I'm gonna go in chronological order as always. I actually thought this was a really good hometown episode. I thought it had a little bit of everything, and I really loved the variety of types of families and how we got a little more of a realistic cross-section of, you know, what families can look like. It's not always, peaches and cream, and I appreciated that and thought it actually made for good television in a way. So I'm going to start with Eric. I love how positive he is and how he seems super forgiving. Like, he had like a really, considering what he was saying about his mom on his one-on-one, how she never really showed him any love. She straight up came out and was like, oh yeah, I never showed you love growing up. It's like, was this prompted? Did a producer mention this before? Like, I wanted to know how this came up or if it was just something that they openly discussed. It just sort of came out of nowhere, and I thought it was sort of ironic that as she said it, she also did not seem that affectionate or loving. I get the impression that she is just sort of a colder person, but I didn't get the impression she didn't care about him. But I really loved how Eric responded to that, which was like, yeah, like very much like no worries, like I totally get it. Like, he was really cool. Just such an easygoing person. Let's see. Oh, and I loved his profession of love, which was that he followed it up with why he loves her. And so he really verbalized why that was. And it wasn't just like empty words and on cue or like on schedule, which they can often feel like. And I also loved that Rachel picked up on his follow-up of why he loved her. Right after he said he loved her, she had an ITM where she was like, he listed why, and it was really sadly unique on this show, and it really made it more believable. Like, you believed him when he said it. Brian, she called him baby. When she went right at the beginning of the date, when she like hugged him, she was like, oh, I missed you, baby. That was kind of a big deal. I feel like that you don't just get that with anyone. It shows a certain level of familiarity for sure. So my Canadian friends out there who watched Bachelorette Canada, did anyone else get Kevin W.'s mother vibes from Brian's mother? Which is to say that they're extremely close and like borderline too close. I think it's very sweet when father and mother a son and mother have a relationship like that. But yeah, it was pretty intense. I was a little annoyed that the previews made it sound more intense than it ended up being. Like the whole, oh, if you break his heart or whatever, I'm gonna kill you. And how they made it seem like Rachel was like, but instead she just laughed. The difference between Brian's mother and Kevin W.'s mother from Bachelorette Canada is that I really get the sense that Brian's mother really wants him to find someone and wants him to be happy and settle down. Well, I didn't quite get that vibe from Kevin W.'s mother. I got more of a possessive vibe there. Peter. My biggest takeaway from Peter's hometown was that he is so pragmatic and so like non-rash, and is just a thought out person who's like myself afraid of regret. So I love watching him because I can see myself in him. I'm sure a lot of pragmatists can see themselves in him, and he's just so realistic. And it's fun watching someone like that, especially when everyone else is sort of like falling in love on cue and saying they're falling in love. And you can also see Rachel in him. Like, she was exactly like that on her season. So it's he's good to watch, and obviously he's not hard on the eyes either. I am getting a slight Brooks vibe from him, circa Desiree's season, which is to say I can actually see him leaving, and I mean, I hope he doesn't, but I can see it happening, and it would be good TV and probably for the best anyway. Dean. Okay, can I just say, we knew this was going to be a dramatic hometown when we're halfway through the episode, and we've already had 3 hometowns, and we haven't had Dean yet. We're only halfway through, so we know that Dean's hometown got like a solid third of an hour-long episode. This was hard to watch. I felt so bad for him going into it, especially when he started whispering, because I know from experience that you whisper because you sort of want to close into yourself, you feel the cameras, the mics, and everything, and you're just like, oh my god, I don't want to do this. So I really felt for him in that moment. And it might have felt worthwhile if there was some understanding at the end of this hometown, but there wasn't, and it just felt more tense than it had been at the beginning, and just very sad. It wasn't even like there was formal politeness anymore at the end. It was just they were in a big fight, which I didn't get the impression they were in before. So it's safe to say this hometown did not help his relationship with his father. And I get that there was an effort for resolution, but the fact that that never came made the entire hometown feel exploitative of his bad home life situation. So that was not very cool. I did not enjoy that. Rose ceremony. So Andy was sure that Peter was going to be going home, but I am so 100% sure at this point that Peter is going to be Bachelor. I just don't see him getting to proposing and being the chosen one in 2 weeks, so I just feel like he's Bachelor written all over him. So I disagreed with him, but I did predict last week that Dean would be going home, and for some reason I was still surprised when he did, perhaps because she did say she was falling in love with him, and I believe she meant it when she said it, but it just, I was shocked that they sent him home after that hometown, because it was just so brutal. I just thought for sure he would stay at least another week. Yeah, that was tough to watch. Okay, so I will get to a few questions. And the first is from Omo. I'm assuming that's at Omo. Do you think it's a deal breaker that Peter doesn't want to propose? Seems level-headed and practical to me, but those aren't words typically associated with The Bachelor. Obviously, I agree with you. I think that it makes sense that when you've been, you know, together or known each other for 9 weeks, and it's not like that's non-stop 9 weeks, it's like sporadic time together 9 weeks. I think it's absolutely reasonable to not want to get engaged. I just feel like I can see Rachel's point of view, where how she doesn't want a boyfriend at the end of this, and maybe a proposal feels a little more permanent or stable, but I agree. I don't think there's anything wrong with just dating or being engaged for a really long time, a la Caitlyn and Sean, and they're still going strong, and they seem to be in a great relationship. So I don't see any harm in that. Ishani asks, what doesn't the audience see at hometowns? Are they there for an entire evening with the family, and do they actually have a meal together? In your opinion, what were parts of last night staged? From what I understand, I never had a hometown, but from what I understand, there is an actual meal had together. You miss a lot of just conversing, and there are usually a lot more one-on-one conversations than are shown, especially the sort of fun parts that are not just about their relationship and the process and all that. But the part that I felt last night was staged was Dean's hometown, obviously. It just felt like his father seemed so not into the cameras and them being there at all, especially when things started to go sour. I got the impression that that took some coaxing on production's end to get his father to agree to that. That's just from me watching as a viewer. Maybe if I watched it again, I would feel differently, but it just felt, I didn't get the impression that like Dean reached out to his father and was like, hey, I haven't seen you in 2 years. Hey, the family hasn't been together in 8 years, but let's, now's the time. It just felt super contrived, and they sort of glossed that over, that now's the time. Yeah, it was rough. Lola Hensley asks, how important is parental approval in your opinion when it comes to taking the relationship to the next level? I think it's very important. I've dated a guy before that my mother did not approve of, and needless to say, it did not last very long. It's just, life is, if you're close with your family, life is just easier if they all get along. And that took me a little while, so a few years in my 20s to understand, but I definitely think, honestly too, your parents, your family really have your best interests at heart. So if they don't like someone, it's usually for a reason. Yeah. Okay, thank you guys for tuning into The Morning After, and I will see you here next week for, oh my god, final final 3. That's crazy. Episode 9. Okay, thanks so much, and be sure to read my Fleur recap and my Pretty Pandas recap, which will come later in the week. Okay, bye.